If the artists who have been with us since the beginning of the project are here with me, what I'd like to do is just show a slideshow for maybe 20 minutes and go through some of the process of the mural project. And then beyond that, open it up to questions about the project. I thought it would be far more interesting to get the perspectives of other people who worked on the project. So I'd just like to first introduce Joanna Andrews, Louise Franco, and Faye Brandon. And so there's 3 of the original 30 participants of the mural project. So yeah, thank you, Joanna. Brenda Miller Holmes. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about my background first, just to give you a sense of that I'm a muralist, and when you think of muralist, sometimes you think it's someone who might go into a house and paint something in someone's room. There's all kinds of ways that muralists work. And while I do that work, the focus and passion of my work is collaboration. So I just wanted to show a little bit about that. I did my first collaborative mural project back in 2001 in Santa Cruz, California. I was volunteering at the time for a local elementary school, and it was for a fundraiser. And essentially when I did that project, I was then hooked. From that point, I started volunteering for this organization in San Francisco, California, Cressida Eyes Mural Arts Center. They are a community-based mural arts organization that's been in San Francisco since the 1970s, and their focus is on community empowerment and collaboration. So all of the work that they do is in collaboration with community. This particular mural is called Indigenous Eyes. It was painted by my mentor and the founder of Cressida Eyes, Susan Cervantes. This is Susan. I'd like to just really honor the fact that I was able to come up and learn from some really incredible people in San Francisco. Susan came to collaborative mural making. She was at the San Francisco Art Institute in the late 60s, and she came across a group of muralists called Las Mujeres Muralistas. It was a group of female muralists that were part of the Chicano art movement who were painting murals collaboratively all over San Francisco. When she was really inspired by the way that they worked collaboratively, so all of them had equal say, they all worked together, and so she just really fell in love with the process, and they eventually invited her to come paint with them, and then the rest is sort of history. She never stopped. She's very, very passionate about sharing the experience and teaching it to as many people as possible, so I'm just very fortunate to have learned and been mentored by such an incredible woman. And hope to do the same, hope to keep spreading the process. So I can start with a little bit of outline. The project was conceived before I saw the RFP for the project. So the city of Durham put out an RFP, which is a request for proposals for a public art project that was collaboratively based. I had gotten involved and engaged in civil rights history mainly through, initially, my father-in-law, who graduated from Hillside High School. And so when I first moved to Durham about 3 years ago, it was just a lot of oral history, listening to him tell stories. And I started to realize, wow, the history here is really incredible. From there, I took a class with Dr. Tim Tyson and Dr. Blair Kelly and Mary Williams through Durham Tech, and it's called the South in Black and White. So that was sort of an overall Southern regional class on race relations throughout the South. But they covered some history very specific to Durham, and again, it just kind of lit a fire in me. It was, I was amazed to learn some of the things that have gone on in Durham, some of the incredible people who came up in Durham, and so I started thinking about the project then. So when I saw the RFP, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. But also sort of in that process, I realized that it wasn't my story to tell. So I realized what I needed to do was gather Durham to tell its own story. And so how do you do that? I actually put out a request for applicants, and we picked 30. I was sort of overwhelmed by the response. I think I had over 50 applications, so people as far away as Raleigh and Clayton wanted to join in on the project. I wanted to keep it Durham specific, so not necessarily folks who were born and raised in Durham, although I did want a lot of folks born and raised in Durham, but people who lived here and had investment in the community. So we did find 30 people. The youngest at the time was 13, and the oldest was 65. So for some of the younger people, the history may as well have been Land of the Dinosaurs. It was like ancient history to them. And for the elders in the group, it was lived experience. So it was really nice to bring together a very diverse, multi-generational group of Durham residents to gather and learn together and tell the stories. From there, we needed to really learn the history from people who could kind of portray it in the best way. And so we gathered a really incredible teaching team. The team was led by Dr. Benjamin Speller, but we had scholars and local veteran activists come out and tell stories. So some of those people included Floyd McKissick and Charmaine McKissick, Andre Van, Mickey Mishaw, Vivian McCoy, Barbara Lau, among others. In the team of participants, we were lucky enough to have some families come, which was sort of made, it created another dynamic among the team that I thought was really, really special. This is Sabina Poe and her daughter Elantra. And this is Scott Holmes and his daughter Jenna. Jenna was one of the applicants. Scott actually wasn't an applicant, but then he just stayed, and it was great. This is where we did the lectures. Our first sponsor that stepped up to support the project was Hayti Heritage Center, which was really amazing. They offered us this space there to do the whole lecture series. And it was just a pretty historical and incredible space to actually be doing the lecture series from. From there, we started our design workshop. So the majority of the design workshops were held at Hillside High School. We had a lot of team members from Hillside. And so what that involved, the initial design part, was participatory research. So we had to do a lot more research after the lectures, and then a lot of drawing and a lot of list making, and I hope you get a sense of what this was like. I added this picture to just sort of highlight how thankful I am to the library. So Lynn Richardson was doing a series on civil rights, all while we were designing the mural, so we had a lot of great resource material to use. This is DeMarcus Boone. He was a Hillside High School student at the time. So everyone starts in the process doing individual drawings based on what was most impactful about the lectures and the history that they learned, and then we kind of gather the information together. So one of the ways that we do this is making these endless lists, and this might be a little bit hard to see, but the list on the left-hand side is people, so it's what I call a brain dump. We all get together and it's like, okay, what stuck out for you the most? Who are the people that you remembered? The other list you see here is places. What were the places that were important? Then we did two other lists that were a little bit more abstract. So one of them was themes, and then the other one was goals. We had a pretty strong conversation about what the goals were for the mural. So obviously with this kind of history, there's really dark moments, and there were a lot of things that were very impactful, particularly to the young folks who hadn't heard the stories before. So throughout, we had to sort of keep in mind our goals. What do we want the mural to do? How do we want it to read? We don't want to repel anybody. We want to absolutely tell the truth, and we want to show the resistance, but we want to pull people in. So those were the goals that we kept in mind as we were designing. We don't want anyone to look at it and be turned away. We want them to be engaged and pulled in. So some of the goals that we came up with were to celebrate, to honor those that sacrificed, to uplift, to educate, to inspire, and especially to inspire reflection. And so I want to say that the process of designing the mural is completely democratic. I'm sort of there to stir the pot, open the paint jars, offer my advice on perspective, scale, things like that, but it's not really up to me. I'm not in charge about what goes in the mural. So for any of the collaborative work that I do, the group really had an equal say about what was important. We did a lot of debating, a lot of voting, and I just love this photograph because it was about subject matter as well as how things were kind of laid out. And again, what we would do is we would make the lists, and then we would break up again and do more individual drawings. And then we'd sort of decide what was going to go together, and then we'd break up and do more drawings based on, well, how do we want that to look? And then essentially you put all of the ideas together. And I have some examples of how that looks. And hopefully the pictures explain it a little bit better. It's a really organic process, and it's very difficult for me to explain with words how it is you get 30 people in a room, get everyone's ideas together on the same piece of paper, and nobody's left out, everybody's included. And so again, just a moment where people are looking at something together. So now what I'll show is some of the individual drawings. This was done by Wade Williams. He's an elder born and raised in Durham, so he had a lot of vivid memories. And so this was obviously St. Joseph's and people marching from St. Joseph's. This is a piece that Franco did, so it's Polly Murray. His style is more graphic. The statue of Shepherd is there, and some people marching. And of course the eagle. This is Faye Brandon, who's sitting here, so she did some drawing, and this was sort of the beginning of the idea of putting some of the founders, the Durham's founders, up in the sky. And so they were elders, and so because they weren't necessarily of that generation, we didn't want to put them with everybody else, but we thought that they were really foundational to how things had sort of played out in Durham, so we put them kind of ghosted in the sky, and so Faye's drawing was really inspirational in that way. And then the next two slides are just showing the same person and how two different people handled it, so that we start looking at styles. How do we want to put the styles together? Do we want to have people look sort of more painterly or more graphic? The other thing that people ask me all the time is, how do you get people together who, did you pick all artists? So I knew that there had to be strong artists on the team, but my thing is really including everybody. I feel like everybody's an artist. Some are just more practiced than others. And so it's important for me to have people working with me who don't necessarily consider themselves artists, but who have a strong voice and have a say. And so one of the ways that we handle this for someone who didn't feel as comfortable drawing is to just sort of make a little doodle about your ideas and then write a paragraph and explain to us what it is that you're trying to show visually, and then the artist can kind of come in and help you realize that. And so this woman had a really great idea. She originally wanted to put sort of modern day protesters off frame, and so that was sort of to symbolize that the work is not over. Obviously the civil rights struggle is not over, we still have a lot of work to do, so sort of how do we continue in the future? So she initially had them off frame, and then this is just a little example of how they manifested in the design. So even though they're not sort of outside of the mural itself, we kept them in the frame, they're there. One of the things about mural making in people is that with people you go life-size or bigger. And so they are actually all standing in the corner of the mural on the street level, and they're life-size, which is really hard to tell. They're sort of little teeny tiny 2-inch drawings here that are blown up on the slide. Here's another example. Sam Bordy sort of brought this perspective to us. It was a great idea for kind of getting this sort of dynamic push-pull in the mural design. And then this is kind of how it manifested as we were putting some of these drawings together. So you can see where Wade's drawing is included down here, where some of the other things are included in train tracks. These next two slides are two examples of how two ideas can come together to be one. So this is another drawing by Wade Williams. We felt like the train tracks were really important, a very important geographic feature, as they sort of separated these two worlds in Durham. So we felt really strongly that the train tracks had to be in the mural. This is a sketch that Nina Valtiera did of, I don't know if anyone can recognize it, but it's the ceiling motif that's inside St. Joseph's Church. The church in itself is stunning. The ceiling is beautiful. But almost everyone who came to speak in the space, and then later I went to see Howard Fuller in the space, every person who was involved in the movement talked about how emotional they felt in that space because of what had happened there. So I felt like it was really important to bring something visual from inside the church outside into the mural, because we knew we were going to put St. Joseph's, the architecture, in the mural, but how do we bring a piece that's inside out? So what we decided to do is turn the train tracks into the ceiling motif of St. Joseph's. So you end up getting these two ideas combined into one idea. We keep the train tracks, and it's obvious that they're tracks because there's a train on it. Hopefully we've done this well enough that people can figure it out. But the motif will be painted there, so it's this beautiful cream color with teal, and we got some gold that will look like gold leaf. Again, these are some other ideas that where different artists approach them. This is Franco's work. And then how we got together to sort of put it into one idea. And this particular idea is very interesting. There was a big debate among the group about Duke's involvement in the mural and whether or not people wanted to put the chapel in. Some people felt strongly, yes, the chapel should be there. Other people felt very strongly, no, we can't put Duke Chapel in it. And so it was a big conversation, and it was a very emotional conversation of people kind of going back and forth and trying to understand each other's side. I even had one veteran activist tell me that if we put the chapel on the mural by itself, that the mural would likely be defaced. That was sort of after the fact. And so this was something that one of the youth brought up as a solution. And one of the things I kind of want to say here that I really encourage is that youth should really be at every table. So anywhere that we're problem solving, we need to have young people there, because the most creative solutions in any group often come from young people. And so this was a woman, Annika Green, made the suggestion, well, why don't we draw Julian Abel drawing the chapel? And so I don't know how many people know the story of, maybe hands up if you know the story, and then I won't tell you about Julian Abel. A couple people don't know, so I'll tell you. So Julian Abel was an African-American architect who designed Duke Chapel and most of East Campus. He was never really, during his lifetime, officially credited, and there's a big debate that goes on about whether he actually ever set foot on the campus to see his work in the end. So we thought it was a very creative solution. We could put Duke Chapel there as long as we honor Julian Abel's contribution to the chapel. So
East Campus or West Campus?
Sorry, I think it was East, but I'm not sure. East Campus, is what I was told, but I could very well be wrong.
But the chapel is
West
West
Campus.
Campus.
Oh,
The
yeah,
chapel
it
is
was
West
West.
Campus.
And so this is how it manifested in the final design, is sort of a combination of those two drawings. One of the other students took it over. But I thought it was a really, really great solution. Again, these are sort of like different people doing very similar drawings. We wanted, we had a very fine line to walk with resistance, where we didn't want to portray so much ugly that people looked at the mural and felt very sad. We really wanted to uplift people and honor and celebrate, but we also couldn't do the mural without showing any resistance. It would be entirely disrespectful to do so. So students drew the guards, and then, I don't know if you can really see it, but the guard is down here. The reason I brought this up is one of the solutions that we decided to use with showing resistance and people's behavior in the past was to work with color. So if you can notice here, the National Guard at the bottom, the off-duty police officer who's attacking Doris Lyons on the bus, the woman in the ticket booth of the Carolina Theater, and the waitress from Royal Ice Cream are all going to be painted in black and white. So we didn't want to feature them on the mural. So our solution was to put them there so that people could see it, to tell the truth, to tell that part of the story, but not to feature them, to sort of put them in black and white and have it be more in the past, even though it's not all in the past. Anyone who's looked at anything going on in Ferguson knows that the scenario of the National Guard is not in the past. So from there, obviously we had to color the drawing, so I just did some process shots. This is Franco and I kind of coloring in the design. There's a picture of Franco working on it. And then we got to our wall. So I don't know if how much people know about the background of the story of the wall. When I was given the grant in 2012, I was proposed to work on an 800 square foot wall in downtown Durham. In the meantime, the building sold, and while the new building owners were interested in the project, we found out a couple things. They were going to put windows in the wall, so then the wall gets smaller than 800 square feet. And also, we wouldn't have been able to paint on the brick. There's Preservation Commission issues where they don't want any unpainted surface downtown painted. So then we had to go seeking a new wall. We were really lucky to be granted permission to paint the back of the convention center, but our 800 square foot mural turned into a 2,400 square foot mural. So suddenly the grant that we got from the city was not nearly enough to do triple the size. So we did an Indiegogo campaign. I partnered with the documentary filmmaker who's working with me, Rodrigo Dorfman, and we did a successful Indiegogo. So Durham showed up, and we had over 200 donors, and so really it's all Durham that has made this happen. And so now it would be less about the story, more about the process of the wall. People always ask, how do you get that design up there? This is how we do it. So it's a grid system. I don't know if you can see the scale on top, but it's 1/2 inch equals a foot. And so we make a 1 foot grid all over the wall, and then we transfer the drawing in that way. And the rest here are all process shots. So we had a lot of work to do. We power washed the wall. There were a lot of sort of issues at the bottom where we had scraping and scrubbing with acid and all kinds of really gritty grunt work to do at the beginning. It's the very unglamorous part that people are shocked to find out you have to do. And from there, this is just shots of people measuring out the grid, so it's a pretty accurate process. This is Jordan and Jenna working on putting the grid over the door. So we are actually just painting right on top of those doors, and there'll be camouflage that'll kind of disappear. And then once the grid was up, the drawing started. This is a woman named Bree Stallings who drove up for a number of weekends from Charlotte to help us work on it. And this is Franco and Alize here working on the drawing. And then this next photo is just to show that drawing with charcoal is very, very dirty work. A lot of the photographs that you see here were taken by Rodrigo Dorfman, who's documenting the whole process. They're really beautiful photographs, and I just wanted to credit him there because he's been really great at documenting the whole process. Once the charcoal goes up, you don't want it to mix with your paint. So once you get all the drawing up on the wall and you're happy with the whole entire thing, then the lines that you want to stay have to be stuck to the wall so that that charcoal doesn't mix with your paint. So this is students who are out varnishing those lines on the wall. So you use a varnish and a paintbrush to get everything stuck. And this is another view of people varnishing all the lines on the wall. Then after that, you kind of have to do a whole other cleaning. So you're cleaning the wall from top to bottom again before you can start painting. The next part of the process is mixing paint. So we buy big gallons of paint in maybe 12 colors and mix 46 colors from there. So here you can see this is Annika Green. Mixing paint was a 2 or 3 person job. There's a lot of fast scrubbing that has to go on before you have paint all stuck to everything forever. Like I was saying to someone earlier, so some of the greatest things that come into artwork happen because of mistakes, sometimes grave mistakes, and so in the process of mixing colors, things went wrong, we ended up with new colors. So this one was for Rodrigo, it's documentary blue. And then after that, the paint started going on the wall, so we worked with background colors first, mostly which were the purples and the blues. And then this is Cassidy Dula. She was one of our original 30 participants who came out to paint. This would be a nice place to just mention that, so we had the initial group of 30 people, the participants, who I wanted to work on the project. Beyond that, I opened it up to the whole community, so it didn't matter where you were from, what your skill level was. If you wanted to come paint, you just come to paint. And so we had over 100 people beyond the original 30 who've come out to help us so far. So it may have been on the priming of the wall, the scraping of the wall, the gridding, the drawing, some people for all of it. Like I said, I mean, Bree came up from Charlotte almost every weekend for a number of weeks to work on the cleaning all the way through the drawing process. But Cassie's been with us from the beginning. I love this picture. This is a picture of Faye. And in the foreground, yeah, is a woman named Maya Cricker. She's out of town right now. She couldn't be with us. But Maya left upstate New York when she was 17 years old to be a part of the Freedom Summer. So she came down as a youngster, and it's been an honor to get to know her and work on the project with her. So it's been a really, really interesting gathering of people, and to kind of let their stories unfold as you're scraping or painting or doing whatever. It's been a pretty phenomenal group of people who have come out. So there's a lot of painting up close and then running really far away to look at things to make sure that it's right, and sometimes it's right and sometimes it's really not, and sometimes it's not in very funny ways. But that's Franco and I kind of checking things out. This is a muralist from Raleigh who's been helping us on the project a great deal. Her name is Lisa Gaither. She's a really phenomenal painter. And that's Erin Moore that she was working on. You've seen a few drawings of waves. The picture's hard to see here, but there's a really nice reflection of what he's working on in his glasses.
A little handlebar mustache, too.
Yes. Here's one of our youngest participants with her father, Malcolm. You will be happy to know that he is not on the scaffolding and his feet are firmly planted on the ground, although she is slightly suspended. She had a really good time. And this is another really fabulous thing that happened. So this is the cast of Best of Enemies. So that's the play, the story of Anne Atwater and C.P. Ellis. The cast actually came out to paint with us one day. So the gentleman who plays C.P. painted C.P. and the woman who plays Anne painted Anne. And it was just a really great day of conversation with them about playing those roles in the play, which I saw last winter, which was just phenomenal. So that was kind of a celebrity painting day. It was pretty fun. And then the last 2 or 3 slides are very fortunate. This is John Lewis, who came last week. Everyone for Durham Needs came in March to the mural, so that was just a real honor to have them there and to hear him speak and actually see him in person. And then on Saturday, Howard Fuller came out and saw the mural, and that was also just an incredible honor to meet him and have him see it, have him see that he was in the middle of it, very large and purple, and I was really happy that he didn't mind being purple. And that the people that he was with recognized immediately the very iconic photograph of him, and he was just very humble and nice. And this is sort of a little bit, we've made a little bit more progress since then, but we're kind of over the halfway hump as far as painting goes. That's about where we are now, a little bit further ahead. And there are also participants in the room, so I just wanted to raise your hand. This is Lenny. So I wanted to just open it up to questions. So instead of just listening to me drone on or just getting my perspective on what the project has been like, really it's about everybody. The work that I do is about we, not me. And so I just wanted to bring some people out and have you ask them questions too to get their perspective on what the project has been like for them, or just really anything you want to ask us.
I know I asked you before, but do you know yet what the mechanism is going to be to explain this to the people who look at it? Because, I mean, I was right up there this far from it, and I just hearing you talk about it, I realized there were parts of it I had no idea what they were that I was painting.
Yeah, so there's a number of things in the works. When we did the fundraising, part of what we gathered for funds, Rodrigo's working on a documentary that will explain some of it, but as far as the actual imagery goes, we're going to create a trifold that will have the people on it numbered. And then on the reverse side, it will have names. And so from there, people will be able to explore the names of people and get to know a little more. Our long-term plan is to do some kind of interactive website based on the imagery so that you can then go in and click. Because I'm collaborative in nature, what I would like to see eventually is a collaborative website. So you could click on somebody and get to this story, and then maybe someone in the community, because I love how the History Hub is set up because it's so collaborative. I would love it if someone said, well, actually, my mom was part of that march, so that then they could create a page about their mom, and it could be connected to that. So I would love to see a website where people can click, explore the stories, but then the community could also keep adding stories. But yeah,
so it's like
now,
people by number.
Yes, exactly.
You know, that might be fun to make your drawings available for people who has color by number.
Yeah, I would like to do that as
Wouldn't
well.
that be cool? That'd be fun.
I'll put a little scan code in the lower right, so
QR code in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas in the works. Scan code has come up. Sometimes people for murals do audio, so there's a phone number you can call and listen to audio. The city would really like to see signage. It's just that our budget is only so big, so we raised enough money to maybe do a little bit less than half that wall. We're doing the whole thing anyway. So, yeah, that might be phase 2.
I did know Howard made one comment about the mural for that the picture you had of Ben is not the one you really should use. He said he was going to send you a younger version.
He did, and he directed me to his website where there was a great picture of Ben. So we're gonna change Ben up a little bit, because we did only have a much older picture of Ben. And don't get me wrong, he was very handsome, even as an older man, but
Yeah.
I think that for the time and what we were trying to convey, we'd like to use the younger photograph.
What kind of, I mean, are you going to have some element in the mural that will make sure that it doesn't peel? We got a terrible example of that in one over here. So I'm sure that the modern technology that we have now will allow for that to live on for many, many years.
Yeah, so we have a number of things on our side. You know, one is just to use best practices when you're creating the mural. So we started off with a really, really great solid wall. The only place the wall had problems when we power washed was down below. So then we scraped all of that off and covered it with a masonry sealer. And so there are a few things that will really mess with murals. The sun is one of them. We're putting a UV protective coat on over it. I also use really highly pigmented paint that's I ordered from California that's made especially for mural painting. And I chose the colors all with a really strong light fastness rating. So the mural doesn't really get a lot of direct sun until late in the afternoon, but the colors that we chose for it are not ones that will fade. So we have that going for it. Beyond that, it's really, so I think some of the peeling that you see in the older murals, what it is water's getting into the masonry and it's literally pushing the paint off. And so some of that is building owner issues. The building really needs to take care of the roof and things like that. Luckily, our building owner is the city and county jointly, and so they've invested in the mural, and I'm certain that they'll really take care of the building.
So what kind of protective covering are you going to put over it?
It's a UV protective coating. It's this like varnish. It's an anti-graffiti coating, and so they use it a lot in big cities where you paint it on in layers, and then literally if someone comes and spray paints it, you can get this stuff called Clever Clean and spray it on and wipe the spray paint off, and the mural's still protected underneath, and then you put a new layer on it. So it protects against vandalism, and it also protects against the elements and UV. So it's like a varnish that will make it as durable as possible.
You mentioned the History Hub. Is there any plan to somehow tie this to the History Hub?
I've been talking to Katie since the beginning of the project, and she's really open to the idea. I just am so engrossed in getting it finished that we haven't really gone into plans.
Well, I know that, I volunteer there once a week, and I know that they often have a field trip, come to the hub, and then they walk over and see the mural. And I don't know what else they do, but I know they're already preparing that informally, so.
So does anyone have any questions for these other people participants? I can call my secrets.
I just have a very open-ended question. Can you guys each just give like little brief comments about your experience working with the whole process?
It's been fabulous. It's been great. Yeah.
Well,
It's probably
your background before you came.
I'm an art teacher. Yeah, I teach art at Rogerstown Middle School, and as soon as I saw the request, knew I had to be involved in this because it just was everything that I love about Durham. I think Brenda's just done such a great job of very intentionally creating community, and I'm just proud to be part of that. So it's just been wonderful. Every step, right down, from the community building to the actual challenge to my artistic skill, which it was a huge challenge to my artistic skill to switch up to the scale. I think we've all, it'll keep you humble working on a wall of the size. Yeah, there were curses, but the whole process has just been fabulous. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, definitely. It's very humbling when you are used to being a person who paints, draws, and having to work at a larger scale is a whole different world. And that process has really been challenging, but I think Brenda really helped us out quite a bit. I've never painted something that big and worked with the grid system. So that was really, really like a great experience, learning experience, as well as the camaraderie, just being around other artists and meeting people who aren't artists who come out and want to help. They're very passionate about what we're painting, so it's been really, really cool. What you think?
Well, for me, it was an experience and an honor because Durham is actually my hometown. And then when I read the request for the application for artists, it was Brenda Miller Holmes. And Holmes was a name that I was familiar with because my elementary art teacher was Mrs. Althea Holmes, who turned out to be Brenda's grandmother-in-law. So it's like this was in the tea leaves for me. Mrs. Holmes was the art teacher who would be equivalent now to what is called art on the cart because she didn't actually have a room. She would come to your classroom, but that was the best day of my life when she opened that door and walked in. She was beautiful. She was just physically beautiful. She was exceptionally beautiful from inside. She was just, she could make you work. You didn't even realize you were working. She taught you things, and she's just had such an easygoing, calming manner about her. I told them she still lives on because she taught me things that I was the only girl in a group of guys who could paint and draw. It was a natural talent for me, and I thought everybody else could do it. I didn't know I was different. But we got to work on murals in elementary school. We did several murals at Pearsontown, what's Pearsontown now. We did one of the John F. Kennedy inauguration, and the guys did not know how to draw Jackie's high heel shoes or her suit and hat, so I had to do it. We did The Christmas Story, and we did Easter as murals, as elementary children. And Mrs. Holmes directed us in doing that. And then we were chosen as a group to do bulletin boards in the school. We did the main one, and when people walked in, they saw our work. And we were like, we need to get stencils to cut letters. And she said, no, you have to learn how to cut letters without stencils. So she taught us how to do it, and I still know how to do it. And actually, my son graduated from Southern High School, and one of my teachers who had been at the high school when I was there became the assistant principal at Southern. She would call me as a grown person to come out and do bulletin boards at Southern. So I was doing bulletin boards at Southern not too long ago. And so when I saw that, another friend of mine said, you know who this is? I said, no, I don't. Who Brenda was. Actually, he thought she was Mrs. Holmes' granddaughter. So when I saw Brenda, I was her granddaughter. And so she explained that she was married to Mrs. Holmes' grandson. And so I was telling her my story, and she said, well, you made us cry happy tears around the table, so you're on the project. But Mrs. Holmes, and I said when I came in, it's not a competition to see who can draw the best, who can paint the best, who can do this or who can do that. It's just, I want to do whatever it is you need me to do. In the process, I'm learning something because I am a lifelong learner. I love it. And I did a mural not too long ago. Brenda and I did one together. And then I had done one when I was in school for a service learning project. I had a few days to get it done, but we did it, we pulled it off. So I wanted to do it, I wanted to learn how to do a real mural, and I felt like this would be a real project. And so it's been an honor for me to work on it, and it's been fun, it's been a learning experience, and creating lots of new friends. So I'm just loving it.
So how did you feel when you were painting some of the ones who made history in the city? Honored that I would be able to add a contribution to something that people will look at for a long, long time. Or that, because my grandchildren go to school now and say, my grandma is painting this mural.
And so they're telling people, and they will know that I did it. So lots of other people will know. So it's an honor to get to use a talent that nobody can take from me, because I was laid off from 2 jobs. And I said, you know what, nobody can take what's in my hands, nobody can take what's in my head. So that is in me, and so I feel honored to be able to give back something that I was given. So it's just an honor.
So when the blog is done, you include all their names. So will you include a small bio of all of them?
Yes.
Okay. So when do you plan to put that up?
Yeah. I'm so just trying to get this paint on the wall.
Now, I'm not rushing you. I'm just curious with that happen because didn't I tell you, did you go to the Business Bureau, because I think,
Yeah.
did you go?
I haven't been yet.
Okay. I had asked her to go and make this part of the information that they put in the booklet for Durham for the businesses to visit. So that would be great. It's a tourist attraction, and it needs to be promoted as such. So once they do that, put it in it. I don't know how. I forgot how often the books come out, but it should be on a steady basis. Every time the book come out, it should be part of the visitor's book because it's a visitor attraction.
Yeah, and
There is a book that came out recently. It says Durham on the front. It's about this big, and the story of the mural is in there.
Okay, that's the latest book
yes.
in the Visitor Bureau.
It just came out maybe less than a month ago.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful publication. It's all about Durham, why Durham's great. But a major feature in that publication is the mural and the process and where they go now. So it will be updated, I'm sure, with the next one. But yeah,
Well, that's great.
the story's getting out.
And I think having the trifold over there too, so having copies of it at the Arts Council, because it's right next door, having copies at the hub, but also at the Visitors Bureau would be 3 of the main places that I would target for just having the information so that someone could take that with them and then go to the mural and learn about the people that way.
Also, in your boutique hotels, that's what we do.
Oh, yeah, see, now you're thinking, we need to get back together.
Yeah, we need to get back together. There's some things out. Yeah, we got what, 3 boutique hotels coming. So that information, and then pictures. We'll collaborate later.
Please, yeah, you have great ideas. I'm really liking this.
Okay.
Yeah. But people come out, they're like, well, when is it? People keep asking me, when is it going to be done? And I just say, a month. And that is every day. It's a month. Another month.
It'll be done when it's done.
Yeah.
Comment. I was struck a little bit. I was involved with, but I was struck by how high everybody's frustration tolerance must be, as well as the total lack of ego that you have to have. Because I'd show up one day and something that had been carefully drawn the last time I was there was totally redone. And it's like, if you had any attachment to that, too bad. I don't know if anything I did was redone. I don't know. But I saw so many other things reworked and reworked and reworked. And I thought, every time you step back and you see, oh, wow, that was really disproportionate or whatever, you had to let go of your own personal attachments to things.
And I was impressed by people's lack of fear of heights.
I think that's something we talk about in the beginning of every mural project that I've done like this in this collaborative process, that it's really about, you sort of have to leave the ego at the door. And I think it's a relief for people because it's not a competition. It's about all of us getting together energetically to create something that's also not about us. And so I think that there's fear in letting go in that process a little bit, but the end result is that it's just this big relief. You're part of something bigger. Like, these people feel like family to me now. Lenny feels like family to me now. He's been out painting and participating. And so I will be really happy with the result, but the process is always where it's at for me. It's like the process of, and I would say, to be honest, in every group, there's one person who doesn't make it. So in every group of 20 or 30 people, there's one person who just is holding on so tight that they can't
The feelings hurt.
let go. Yeah, and it's always really sad to me, but there's always one person. But you want to still pull them along and have them hopefully be able to let go of it.
It looked really physically hard to me, climbing up and down and the different positions you all were painting. Tell me, can you talk about the physical nature of painting a mural like?
I'll tell you today. Today I was holding myself up with the back of my head against the mural as I was like straddled in, and I'm like this, and I said, man, I'm holding myself 3 stories up by my head. And so yeah, there's that. It's not always like that.
I've always been up there. Often.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that so much.
Yeah, it is actually easier to paint on a canvas and paper.
Yeah.
Much easier. And I have a physical challenge because I have osteoarthritis of the knees. And so standing, I have to switch between standing, sitting, and lying down, which I don't do in the mural, lying down. So, you know, we improvised. I had there was a recycling bin that was turned over that was a chair until a person working next door came out and saw me trying to get down on that low thing, and he said, "You need a chair," so he brought me a chair out. So my chair stays there, and I have my name on the back. And so if I stand up and paint for a little while, and when I need to sit down, I sit down and paint, or I sit down and wait and get back. So you just figure it out that way. And the thing about the ego, I think it's more important for us to know that we'd rather see something done right, to say that our name is on it, to say that we're giving this to the community. Yes, let it be done right. It doesn't matter if I wanted to say I painted Miss whoever. I may have painted her, I may have drawn her, I may have done whatever to her, but somebody can come and correct her. And then I think part of it is if you're able to, and I went back to school when I was 58, 50 something, and finished my degree to be an art teacher. Ms. Holmes would love that. She was my inspiration. So I did it, and in doing that, we learned, we had to do critiques of each other's work. And you learn that it's not a criticism, and it's something to help you get better. So it's easier for me to, you know, I'll ask people, does this look right? What should I do? Or whatever, because it's not about what I did, it's about the whole thing looking like something we want to leave.
How quickly does the paint dry? I mean, we've had some rainy days. Have you had any difficulty with having painted something and then the rain comes and does that wash it away and you have to redo it? Or?
We did have one day where we were priming and then changing parts of the drawing, where I would come with the primer and I would erase parts of the drawing that we weren't happy with, and then the rain would come and it would all be washed away and everything that we were trying to hide was exposed again. And then we went for the second round where I did it again, and then the rain came again, and so we took a beating that day and then we gave up. But it dried, the paint itself dries pretty quickly. So if it starts raining, then we just say, okay, stop, don't put any new paint on the wall. And I think there was only one day where Franco and I actually happened to be at lunch, where the rain came so quickly that the colors started running down the wall, and then you're sort of damaging everything that's underneath it. And Joanne and a group of other superheroes managed to clean it all up with rags, and it was fine.
Now, you said that the person pointing the finger above the bus and the ticket seller at the Carolina Theater will not have the full-fledged color that some other aspects will, but seemingly the photograph you showed earlier also had the founders, you call them, are they also going to be at is it because they're up high and close to the sky that they also are not going to have the same kind of color?
Well, they're really interesting, actually. They're painted in blue, so they're part of the sky. And I can go back to and show you the example of Aaron Moore that Lisa painted. There he is.
Okay, so that's skies.
Yeah, so
Fairlight
he's,
blue.
yes, exactly. So he's painted into the sky blue, and so the idea is that they're foundational, but we didn't want to put them in the sky in full color because it would look really too much like Mount Rushmore. And so it just, we didn't want them prominent in that kind of way.
And I feel honored because it's Aaron Moore and John Merrick. I'm a graduate of Merrick Moore High School. Merrick Moore High School, and they were very instrumental in getting educational opportunities for Black Americans in Durham. In fact, you know, they start, we used to have bank books at school where you could have a savings account as an elementary child, and it was someone there. So I felt like they should be honored, and they made it into the mural. So, yeah.
Is that Virginia Williams in the green coat?
It's not, actually. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Virginia Williams in the green coat with the, she has a brown purse.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, it is. And so that whole section of the mural is the Royal Seven. There's another green coat. I don't think we have it. I have a slide of it. Maybe in the whole. Do you want to look at the drawing, the original drawing?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. That's her, Representative Moore.
Yeah. I got flipped around, there's another green coat. We've had one from Paula who's been coming out and dressing people. So people come with skills and they paint these beautiful portraits, and then Paula comes in and paints these beautiful coats and dresses them in.
Wait, which one?
It's been a good collaboration.
Must be a couple, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's that one. Okay.
Yeah, but we changed colors over here to make it different. So some things on the drawing get changed a little bit. You put something up and then you realize that's not maybe the color that you want. Things get shifted a little bit.
So St. Joe's in the brick, and then in the back behind Dr. King, I guess that's White Rock?
Yes.
The old White Rock?
The old White Rock, yeah.
And will the hands be of multi-complexions?
Mostly mostly.
I mean, look, you know, the span of black
Yeah.
hands.
Shade, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, all different shades, and so that they're contrasting so that they stand out. The other thing that we're going to do in the hands is not necessarily in the shadows. From far away you won't be able to see it, but as you get up close, I mean, really to continue telling stories and to honor everybody, we could have painted all downtown. We could just keep going on the next building, around the corner, and just keep on going. You can't possibly tell all the stories in one mural. So there were a lot of decisions to be made, and obviously everybody couldn't be in it. So what we decided to do was paint everybody's name. So Andre Van has a list that he's compiled from multiple sources of everyone who was active during the movement. So through arrest records from protests and things like that, there's a list of everyone involved, and we're going to put all their names on the bottom. So as you stand back from far away, what you'll see is big hands, and then as you get closer, you'll be like, oh, there's names in those hands. And so there'll be space too that, you know, history is sort of always evolving and we're always learning more. If there are people whose names come up that we didn't know at the time, I can always run over there and put somebody else's name on it. So. I can tell one other little story too, because this piece is a little bit confusing about what this is. So if you look at the picture of the wall, this part of the wall is actually recessed a little bit, and there's a wall that goes back this way, so it turns the corner, and it's about a 4-foot span that goes around the corner. And I literally was up late at night trying to figure out what can I put on the wall that doesn't face forward that won't seem disrespectful, because sort of if you put it on that wall, it's more hidden, and then are you saying it's less than? And so we were really baffled about what to put there. And then I think I woke up at like 3 in the morning, and I was like, the secret game, that's where that goes. And so that's what we put on that wall, is the imagery. There's the fist there, and then the image of the secret game. And so it's sort of a secret wall, so it made sense.
Will this be protected from the weather so that
Yes.
it doesn't disappear like the one that was done on the old Indian?
Yeah, so there's a lot of concern about that, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier. It's going to have a UV protective coating on it. And I think what I was saying earlier is some of the problems with the other murals is just taking care of the building. So if water leaks from the roof and gets into the masonry, it will just push the paint off no matter what you have on the top of it. We're looking that the city and county jointly own this building, and so they're going to maintain it. They've invested a lot in it, and I'm sure that they'll be taking care of the roof over there, making sure no water's getting on it.
So a relatively newer building, isn't it?
It's a newer building. It's cinder block, so that's a little bit different than brick. It still is porous, like any kind of masonry, but yeah, it's a newer building, and there was already paint on it, on the wall. And so it was in really, really good shape. I mean, we went and power washed to see if anything would bubble up and see where maybe there were water problems, and we really found none except at the very bottom. And for those, it bubbled up and we scraped it all off, and then we sealed it with a masonry primer.
Can each of the panelists tell us one of your favorite memories so far?
Of the
Of the process, yeah.
My favorite, I think, was we were making a list and deciding what was going to go in there. There was so many things that could have been included. It was a process where, like she said, we had long lists, and then it was a process of elimination. And then to come up with, because we had no picture actually when we had our list, and for the list, for the picture to evolve from the list was really, really exciting. And I think the history part too, we did about 15 or 16 weeks of history where we went to listen to Dr. Speller and other panelists talk, and that was exciting and interesting to me.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I do actually. But I need the opportunity first.
That's pretty good. I mean, there's been many, many moments of like joking around, which I won't get into all that. You know, I know we have adults here, but it's a little real adult. But I will say, it's always interesting when you're trying to work on a project like this, and you meet so many different people that ask so many questions about the wall, and it's, and I say it's interesting because the questions are always kind of the same, and you kind of regurgitate the same answers at them, you know, like kind of like Brenda was saying about, you know, always saying, oh, it'll be a month, it'll be a month, it'll be a month, you know, and you're just kind of like, if I can eliminate all the people coming, maybe I can get closer to that month, you know, so that's always interesting. Especially when I let you tell your story.
My favorite memory was when we were all sitting around that table, that slide at the very beginning, and it was the first time we met as a group, and I think it was Sabina, that was talking about, she lived in South Carolina, but her family lived up in Hayti, and she described what it was like to come up in the summers and spend her summers with her family in Hayti, and she said she never wanted to leave, that for her, Hayti was this place that was very free. You know, it was so self-contained. Everything she needed was there. And unlike her life in South Carolina, which, you know, there was a lot of discomfort, a lot. And when she was telling that story, she got really emotional. It was intense.
What was
Sabina Poe.
Yeah.
And she was there with her daughter, which was really special. So she got to share the whole experience with her daughter and the whole learning process. And that was really, really nice. But I would agree. I mean, there were definitely intense conversations. You know, we had very, very real conversations that were not always comfortable. But I think to make change, we have to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable, right?
And I was amazed at the first meetings as well, that this was a project for Durham, and everybody, we went around the table and people were from Georgia, New York, Connecticut, everywhere, lots of places. And I said, well, where are the people from Durham? It actually was only 2 of us at the time from Durham, actually from Durham. So I was really kind of amazed about that. That I guess when you're in a place, you don't realize the place, and I didn't realize that many people from everywhere else or anywhere else would be so interested in what was actually happening. So that was different. That was interesting.
The names you say that will appear on the hands will basically be the people who played some role in the mural.
The mural or the history?
No, I'm sorry, people who played a role in the movement. So Andre Van compiled lists of names of people who protested. He got things from arrest records,
Okay.
from the civil rights group that gets together. And I know that there's a committee and they have had something to do with compiling these lists of people, everyone who they could think of that was involved during that time.
Good.
So those are the names, yeah. And there will be names of the participants, you know, we'll put credits on it, obviously, of the people who sponsored and supported us, and then the people who've been really core participants in the project as well.
Well, I'm somebody who just has seen the process, and I wanted to thank Brenda, of course, for doing a phenomenal job, but all of the volunteers, because I've watched you put in so much time, so much time and energy and just physicality of everything, and I just think that's such a special thing. I mean, really, it's so, you have to dedicate so much of your time to it, and it's been such a long process, and I just want to thank you as a Durhamite for what you've done and will continue to do since everybody else, shout outs to everyone else.